Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps: Bob the Dragon, Crab Lobster, Datamagnet, DuckMachine, Mezec, Try Again 95, Feudic Jarl, Astraya the Dreamer, Casper Arnholtz, Maxwell, Ithilia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Buxbaum. Thank you very much. Story number 1. The Power of the Plow, written by Damascus Seraph. When humanity had finally reached FTL status and expanded into the nearby systems to colonize what planets they could, they were welcomed into the Galactic Federation as a member now that their species has proved that it could attain FTL of their own. Finding their position in the galaxy to be unenviable, only a small portion of the galaxy lay unclaimed and only a few dozen habitable planets lay in humanity's reserved space, surrounded by 3 other much larger, more powerful, and technologically advanced neighbors. And while a few dozen planets seems like an abundance, other states contain hundreds. Though as mankind continued to learn about their neighbors and estimate their position on the galactic stage, they noticed something peculiar. Even the most densely populated worlds in the Federation had barely a few billion, only 7 having more than Earth. Even after mass exodus to newly formed colonies, Earth still had a population of 5.6 billion. Still, in the top 20 most dense planets. Not only that, but population numbers in each state were a third the size scientists estimated for the number of planets that they had. The Earth's economy began to integrate with the galactic economy as a whole. Many saw the reason why. Food was the most expensive non-luxury commodity. A can of beans on Earth would cost a credit or 2, but on any other world it would cost as much as 20 or 40 credits. Seeing this, and the desire for many humans to have the old dreams of a family farm, the United Nations of Earth pushed for increased focus on agricultural and colony worlds, even paying to resettle millions of people from Earth to the colonies to both decrease the strain on Earth and to develop new planets. None in the Galactic Federation paid much attention to the new members, except for one, the Tilaka, a moderate military power in the Federation, but restrained from taking the worlds reserved for humanity until they destroyed themselves. But unfortunately, they became FTL capable and a member state of the Federation, taking all plans and hopes of getting those worlds that they saw as their birthright back peacefully. For now, they gathered their strength, recouping their expenses into future colonization into war production and bribes into the neighbors to remain uninvolved. Within a year, most farmsteads became self-sufficient and began exporting excess produce across the galaxy, lowering food prices by half and further each year that went by. As soon and more farmsteads became more experienced and were able to produce more. Demand for food, already high, became higher as members began to loosen and eventually revoke their rationing policies. As human foodstuffs and intensely eased the galactic-wide famine, most members, though, remained unaware of the cause of the famine's ending, as many attempted to increase funding to their state-run farms to produce more food for their people. For the next half a decade, a new normal of surplus food enriched the galaxy, as previous famines were somewhat common in every state, but rarely on a galactic level. Due to all the nations using the minimal amount of land for farming and agriculture, instead of using it for mining and other industrial needs, putting their full focus on industrial and military might to keep the balance of power in the galaxy. But on the 7th year of humanity's joining the Galactic Federation, the Tilaka declared their claim for the worlds given to humanity, saying that they were claimed by the decades before the humans ever left their worlds, and that they rightfully belonged to them, and that they would take them by force if necessary. Humanity was stunned, but the Federation was not surprised by the outcome. Many larger nations have strong-armed smaller ones into giving territory or tithes, causing younger nations to become vassals and all but name to their neighbors for protection. Humanity had not learned this lesson yet, and would pay a terrible price leaving them on their home planet after getting so much space. But humanity was a stubborn race, and publicly proclaimed that they will not give up their homeworlds asking the Federation members to assist them against the aggressor. But none came to help. The Telaka, assured in their victory, prepared their fleets and raised their armies ready to sweep over what meager defenses a species of farmers could put up. But humanity was not going to go down easily. They had known of their position in the world and had planned just in case of this eventuality, publicly proclaiming that from now on any food exports were to cease to be stockpiled for war. This was met with apathy and confusion by the rest of the Federation. Why would they not export more and gain funds to fight their albeit futile war? As soon as the Telaka fleets jumped into human territory, they were assaulted and hit and run tactics, striking at their supply lines and slowing their advance. As they neared the only choke point in the star lanes that led to Earth itself. Yet, as the Federation members looked at the odd tactic in space battle, none noticed their dwindling food supplies, until the Telaka were a few star systems away from Earth. And suddenly, the Telaka and all other members of the Federation were suddenly having a massive famine. The increase in consumption of food after rationing was removed and had made the previous emergency stockpiles last mere months instead of years. Now, everybody was scrambling to purchase food. The prices jumped, thousands of credits for every ounce of food. But as an emergency meeting in the Federation was called debating on how to solve the sudden famine, the human representative went on stage, proclaiming that they had surplus food ready to be shipped. In fact, they had enough to feed the entire galaxy. But, unfortunately, they might need it all for their war against the Telaka. If only the war could end swiftly and in humanity's favor, they might have food to spare. Otherwise, they would have to burn all the food that they were stockpiling to prevent the Telaka from getting them, along with the extremely fertile farms producing them. Just look at how much food we made last year. A holographic graph showing food exports that made it very, very clear that humanity was the only thing that could stop the galaxy from starving. The entire Federation Senate was silent as the human representative laid out their demands. The Telaka were to surrender and cede half a dozen worlds and 100 systems to the humans, and food trade would resume. And any further aggressive actions against mankind will be met with the ceasing of all trade of food with the entire galaxy. With no other choice, and with a fierce protesting from the Telaka, the Federation Senate voted in favor of the Human Peace Treaty, partly due to half of them being offered a warm celebratory meal if they were to vote yes. The aftermath of the war was swift. The Telakan Empire collapsed under the weight of their massive spending on military that they expected that they would need to hold the human worlds, and their unfulfilled promise to claim the worlds for their people, along with those that they had conquered rising up and asking humanity for protection or even annexation. The entire galaxy realized the power of the Plow when everybody else was too focused on making swords to feed themselves, and humanity had capitalized on that to become a major power. End of story. Story number 2. Personal Space, written by SlowAD2584. The scene at the Starbase Mall Cop security office was chaotic. The insectoid being Click was in pretty bad shape. His carapace was badly mauled and a split in several places. Essential internal fluids were dripping out. The human death welder, Charlie, was doubled over, occasionally vomiting into a bin. Both were currently rather disgusting. This was a somewhat common case of first encounters between species going poorly. The mall cop security droid had to settle things down, and quickly. Both sides were threatening genocide to the other when they go home and tell their races what happened. As the human was, well, a death welder, he was in far better shape after whatever happened than the insectoid was. So the droid focused more attention on Click, who may need medical attention soon. Can you describe to me what happened here, sir? Click with trouble speaking. It appeared his mandibles were rather forcibly mistreated. I merely said hello to the passing human, exchanged casual pleasantries, and he assaulted me. Look at what he did to me. I think 3 of my legs are broken. Hey, screw you, pal. You assaulted me, the human said, but upon looking at the insectoid face, Charlie immediately heaved and lurched back into the wasteman. The acidic fumes from the human vomit was starting to degrade the air recirculation filters. Wow, humans were full of surprising horrors. Please hold your comments for later, sir. It is Galactic's time for a statement, the droid said in the most placating tone possible. He didn't need to rip my antennae off, the insectoid complained piteously. The droid noted that indeed the insect's sensory antennae were missing. This is bad. The human had mutilated the poor citizen. Well, I didn't. You bet I ripped that damn thing off. The mention of the antennae seemed to have triggered another wave of vomiting. When I get back to tell my people what you did to me, they both said in near unison. All right, that's enough. Neither of you are going back to your people just now to start a war here. I am going to separate you two, get you both medical treatment, while we get representatives from your species here to figure out how to resolve this diplomatically, the droid said, and alerted the proper station authorities. A few days later, diplomats from both species arrived and were about to meet in person at the station. Both diplomats were coincidentally females and had become quite friendly over FTL video calls while both were in transit. They both felt this misunderstanding could be resolved quickly and were eager to each meet the other in a more formal diplomatic setting. The human female was at the meeting room first and was seated. Then the insectoid diplomat entered the room. Hannah, the human, tried her best to cover the shock at seeing a 5-foot-tall, more or less cockroach in person. Bravely, she stood up and walked towards the bug, right hand outstretched to shake a limb. So nice to finally meet you. The insectoid nodded her head and stepped towards the human, then scurried up her chest and threaded her antennae down each nostril of the human female, down into her lungs in a customary greeting. Wait, it was all Hannah could manage to say as she reached up, grabbed the antenna in her nose, and violently shoved the insectoid off her chest and across the room, and with shaking hands dragged the antenna out of her face. It was a testament to Hannah's diplomatic professionalism that she managed to say, while trying not to vomit, We need to discuss personal space here. Sorry about your... were those important? Honestly, I couldn't stop myself. While she tried to recompose herself on shaking legs, arms propping her hunched form upright over the table. Hannah is honored to this day for her titanic strength of character and will, and the insectoids remain eternally grateful for that moment of understanding, that their insectoid race was actually not immediately killed with fire whenever they could be found. Sometimes interspecies customs result in a culture shock that needs truly heroic understanding. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.